I'm excited today to welcome my co-authors from the Changing on the Fly, the second period anthology. We've got Heather Lire, Locey and RJ Scott. Welcome, everybody.
Hiya.
So, I want to give you a moment to introduce each of yourselves for the listeners. Heather, we'll start up with you.
So I'm Heather Lire, and I write contemporary romance under Heather Lire, and I write paranormal romance under Kenzie McLear. And by day, I am a high school Spanish teacher in the middle of nowhere. And at night, I'm a football mom, writing hockey while I sit in the stands.
Nice. Vicky?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to go to RJ. I was dawdling. I'm VL Locey, or Vicky Locey. You know, my pen name is so secretive, nobody will ever figure out who I am. I write mostly hockey romance. I do dabble with some paranormal and some other things. I also do MF, but that's kind of going by the wayside. I am a full-time author, chicken herder, cat wrangler, dog shusher, and I cheer the Rangers. That's about the extent of my excitement.
That's good excitement.
You know, keeps me out of the bars.
And RJ.
Hi, I'm RJ Scott. I'm an author of contemporary romance. Can you tell I'm reading from my notes? I'm a full-time author. I've been a full-time author for about 5 years now, and I've got probably about 120 books out there. I write a lot of hockey recently with that young lady there, VL Locey, and I love what I do, and I love the Penguins, and I'm still reeling. I'm reeling from that small loss that we took this week.
Yeah, that's not a way to open the season. For the listeners who don't know, the Penguins went down to the Blackhawks 10-1 in the season opener.
Nobody else knows. Don't tell people.
Just us four. We're the only ones that know.
So this is the second year for the Changing on the Fly anthology. Vicky, can you give us some background on what its origin was and how the volume actually performed last year?
2 years ago, I guess it was, Avon Gale and I, who Avon wasn't able to participate this year, we brainstormed this idea where we wanted to try to get together some hockey romance authors and do it a charity anthology, because there's been anthologies for everything else. And we wanted to donate the money to a charity that supports inclusiveness in sports. So last year we did the first edition, and we raised over $3,000 that we sent to our chosen charity. And we were thrilled to death about that. So this year we wanted to try to do it again, but as I said, unfortunately, Avon couldn't participate this year because her release schedule is almost, if not as equally insane as RJ's and mine. And so I kind of just took the reins and tried to gather everybody together, and I was fortunate enough to get these lovely authors here that we have here, and we're hoping that this year we can match what we made in the previous one or exceed it.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if we could do that. Let's talk about the stories that are in this year's. Very different stories. I've finished the book the other night, and I like how we all, without even talking to each other, managed to write people at different stages in their career. Because you've got RJ with the guys in the AHL. I've kind of written the guy who's been in the NHL for a while. Vicky did the superstar, and then Heather has the guy whose career he's exited hockey. I like how we spread that out so well. Yeah,
that's one of the things I like about anthologies is you get, usually, I mean, unless the author sit down, okay, we're only going to write about this particular topic, but you get a wide area or wide choices of different kind of topics and different, like you said, different places in their careers or different leagues or different, places where they're at in life. So I like that choice that you get in there and that variety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the individual stories. Heather, we'll start with yours. Tell us what yours is about and kind of what its origin story was.
So mine is about Zach and Tony, and they are reconnecting. They grew up as best friends, and Zach has known since he was a teenager that he was gay, but he was in and I didn't even realize this. And when I was voting, I was like, oh, that's probably the wrong state to have this in, but whatever, it works. And what he thinks is a very conservative Christian town in Vermont. But he was also a hockey phenom who, was one of those kids who had the NHL knocking on his door at 16, 17 years of age. And because he knew that's where he was going, he had to keep it quiet. And now he has exited hockey, not of his own free will, but because of a freak car accident. And so his mother, who you meet her in his sister's story. So people who read his sister's story are going to go, oh yeah, totally get that. He's on vacation to escape the things that his mom put in motion when he was laid up in the hospital. And so his best friend, who he's not seen since he was 18, shows up at the same place. And they kind of hash out what happened when he left and then kind of go forward. And one of my favorite lines is Tony tells Zach to get his shit together. It's probably one of my favorite lines in the book is when Tony looks at Zach and he's like, you need to get your shit together. I mean, because who can call you on it like your best friend?
Right.
And who also happens to be the guy that you've been in love with since you were 16. So that's kind of where the story ended or comes from. But it's set in my other series, Holiday Vermont. And in A Holiday Christmas, you actually meet Zach and Tony, and it's years later. Like, they're married, they have a little girl. So the way I ended it, it's because those who've read the Holiday series, that's the Zach and Tony that they know. So it's kind of like a precursor to the Holiday series, because Zach's the mayor of Holiday Vermont. And so, and I recently got the rights back to the whole Holiday series, so I get to rewrite it, and I get to put Zach and Tony, because they were never supposed to be Zach was never supposed to be a main character. So now I get to kind of put him in, sprinkle him in throughout the book now, the series. But that's where it came from, and I'm super excited about it, because how many boys? I have a guy I went to high school with who this could have been his story. We all knew he was gay, but he didn't come out until he was in college because of the time frame that he was in high school. Like last night, so I'm a teacher, and I have a student who for 2 years we're like, this kid just needs to come out of the closet. He just needs to come out of the closet. But he was 12 and 13 years old. He was not coming out, and he came out this week. So I'm like, that's brave for a 14-year-old boy.
It's very brave.
Living in the part of Denver that he lives in to come out. And I'm like, it's those students is the reason why I think Zach is the way he is. Tony is very open with what his sexuality is, but Zach is, and I look at my son's teammates and I'm like, how many of them are gay and aren't saying anything because they play football?
Mm-hmm.
Zach is for all those kids those boys who had to keep it quiet because they were not because of the way the world would react, but the way they thought the world was going to react, especially the time that they were playing.
And I like to know, I'm going to have to go read Holiday now when you put it back out, now that I know there's this whole other area where they're at.
There's 6 books, and his sister's actually A Holiday Christmas, and he's quite the little the Holiday Christmas starts off right where I ended Second Chance at Love.
Okay.
Cool.
So yeah.
So Vicky, you wrote a sequel to last year's anthology story with yours.
I did. It was I actually had it in my head when I wrote the one from last year that I'd like to do 3. We'll see. I'm hoping to do another one next year because you have to have the third period.
That's right.
Right. You got to complete the game. But yeah, so this one kind of picked up since I write in first person. The story was told last year by Riley, and he's the quintessential New York superstar hockey player. I don't know who he's patterned after, but and
he's not Norwegian.
No, he's not. He's not Norwegian. He's actually not Swedish either, but he is patterned after somebody very famous. I'm not going to name names, but he's as Heather was saying, he's the one that the NHL came knocking at his door at 15 and 16, and he actually skipped college to join the NHL at 18. But he was living a life of a closeted man until the fates throw this young street hustler in his path. And so that first book was from Riley's point of view, and I wanted to tell Kiefer's point of view because they're very much almost the Prince and the Pauper kind of thing, where Riley's the millionaire and he's got the loft and it looks over Gramercy Park and he's making blah 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 million, and then he falls in love with this kid who was in the sex trade. And so I really wanted to tell Kiefer's story this time, so that's where that came from, was the continuation of that storyline.
Yeah, and to people, the folks who heard me review the anthology a couple of weeks back on the show, this was the story in it that made me cry, because Kiefer's story really just stabbed me, and is also he what he does in this story is like near and dear to my heart anyway. So
yeah, it's very much a discovery story for Kiefer, where I don't want to give too much away, but
right.
It's very, very much a discovery story for him. And, coming into himself as a man where he thought he knew who he was, but, falling in love with Riley, opens up things for him, that he didn't realize that he wanted to do. And so it's very much a self-discovery story, as well as a nice little love story.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to their third period.
Me too.
Oh, we should tell people too that there's a link in the book. If they missed last year's story, you've re-released as a freebie part 1.
Yes, there is. There's a link right at the beginning of my story for anybody who didn't read Riley's in the first anthology. So you can just go Insta freebie and grab it. And I suggest, you probably should. You should probably read it. I think it gives you a lot of background onto that, And then it's just a little short, it's under 20K like this one is. It takes you an hour or two. And then you can leap into Rookie Moves. And I think it gives you a lot better perspective on the dynamic and everything that went before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about your story, Jeff?
Oh, see, I was going to throw to RJ next, but
No,
sure.
I'm happy for Jeff to go first. That's fine.
So
I'll let you two argue it out.
So for mine, I went with a guy who he's been in the game for a while. He's had a breakup. He is out. In my world, like in Vicky's, we've got out NHL players. But he had a really bad breakup because he was with somebody who wasn't out and didn't want to be. And his game's been slipping because of it. So he actually, in the off season, goes back home to see his former coach, because his former coach from high school really helped him find himself and come into not just being a good player, but also kind of helped turn him into the man that he became later. So he's gone back home to try and recapture that. But what he doesn't expect to find there is the coach's son, who, when he left home all these years ago, was like 5 or 6 years old, but now is, a college graduate, and a very handsome college graduate, no less. And they're kind of tossed together because while Roger is back home working on his game, he's also helping his former coach run his summer hockey camp, which Dylan is also a coach at. So it's a May-December story about Roger trying to fix himself and also maybe taking the chance on trying love again, even though, you know, he's kind of got to put his heart back together to do that and take the chance and proceed from there. It was a fun one to write. I haven't done May-December before, and so I was looking for something that was a little different to do from a writing point of view, to have a different kind of challenge, and I had a really good time with it. I really have to say.
You did really well with it. Things I never did May-December before. It was really, really a good read.
Yeah, I loved it.
It's one of my favorite tropes, so that's why I was like,
Tell us your story, RJ.
My story, I mean, I'm fairly new to this hockey business, only a couple of years now, but they're all tall, like, they're all 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", they're really, really tall and big and, you know, strong. And then you've got the little ones, haven't you? The cute ones, like Connor Sheary and that Norwegian guy from the New York team. I don't know who he is.
what is his name?
What fascinated me was the fact that even on when you had the lineup at the beginning, you'd have like tall, really short person, tall, and I'm thinking, how do they kind of cope? So you had this really short guy. He's 5'8", but his bio says he's 5'9", and he's quite proud of that extra inch. So, you know, quite cool. And he's in the closet, but not in any bad way. And it's quite open in the book that there are quite a few gay NHL players and AHL players, and they all know about each other, but nobody talks about it. So it's kind of, you know, behind closed doors. And then we're introduced to Lester, who is 6'6". He's a defender, and he takes his chirping a little bit too far, and it becomes a bit sexually charged between him and Benji, who is only 5'8", and that's where the story starts. And all the way through, we see that it doesn't matter about your size or what your sexuality is or anything like that. If you can play hockey, you can play hockey, and that's the story basically.
Yeah, you know, that sentiment.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the season. As we're recording this, the season has just begun a few days ago on October 4th.
We're not talking scores, are we?
We'll avoid the scores
names
this time. We've already did that heartbreak earlier. Now, RJ, we already know you root for the Penguins, of course.
Let me pull up my ESPN. You know, haven't checked scores in a couple days.
You're the Penguins, right, RJ? You and I share that a little bit because I am Penguins as well as Detroit.
Oh, right. Okay. So, oh, yeah, that was a bad night. But it's fine. They'll be fine. Come on. 2 years in a row.
They got it out of their system.
Absolutely. They've lost all those players. So, you know, we'll be fine. I have every faith. Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, because Vicky's now got the Pens as your second team, haven't you, Vicky?
I kind of like them. Yeah, I can't admit that like in front of a lot of people because I get kicked out of Rangers groups and stuff. But yeah, I kind of like them.
Except we now have it recorded for everyone to hear that she does kind of like them.
Well, there goes my social life.
There goes your credibility.
There it goes.
It's all my fault, I'm afraid.
And of course, Vicky, you're best known for the Rangers. Definitely. I mean, your Facebook icon and everything. So.
Yeah.
And Heather, who's your team?
Yeah.
So my main team is the Avs, but my secondary team is the Golden Knights. Mm-hmm. And I am happy to say that both had a fantastic week this week.
Yeah, I'm glad the Golden Knights opened so well. It's nice when you're the new team to come out with looking good.
Well, if you are not following their Twitter feed, you probably should.
Their Twitter feed is hilarious.
Okay, I'll have
to
start
really
following
hilarious.
that.
There was some guy. He goes, I am so pissed off the Knights got all these players, but whoever you guys hired to run your Twitter feed, I am now going to follow you guys because they are so, like, the player whose first name is Elvis. What's his name? Oh, I can't remember where they got him from. But they were like, and the Golden Knights just got Elvis. Do you think he's Elvis? Is he really Elvis? Is he Elvis? Oh my gosh, is Elvis coming back to Vegas? I mean, it's just that kind of like Vegas satire.
I love it when the teams all get into arguments.
Oh, yes. And the Golden Knights are fantastic about riling up the other teams, and they just go at it. Hilarious.
Okay, I'm linking up to that feed today because I am not watching that feed.
My second team is New York Rangers now, and that's all Vicky's fault.
You can't go wrong.
No.
You can't go wrong.
But Fleury, I have to keep an eye on Fleury, so I'm following the Knights as well, bless them.
Yeah, I'm following the Knights too because of Fleury,
Well,
and I actually follow the Rangers because I tell you, watching the goalie is one of my favorite things to do with them.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. Let's hear what each of you has coming up next through the rest of the year. RJ, we'll start with you.
Oh, right. Well, in 11 days, I've got Deacon's Law coming out, which is the third and last book in the Heroes series. I've got a special secret, super secret project that I'm not telling anybody about that is coming out in November. We've got another Railers book coming out in December. That's the third one in the MM hockey romance I'm writing with Vicky. That's coming out in December. And we're currently writing Stan's story, which is book 4 in Railers. So that's really exciting. So yeah, it's a busy end of the year.
Indeed.
Very busy.
Yeah.
Heather, what's up next for you?
I am re-releasing the Holiday Vermont series. Book 1 should, actually, I'm just going to say January 1. And then every other month after that, each of the books is going to be coming out.
Okay, fantastic. Vicky, what's up next for you?
Oh, I had to get my paper out from under my cat. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. On the 18th, I have an MM contemporary called Improper Fraction, which is friends to enemies to friends, lovers. We don't know how that's going to end out. And then on November 1st, I have the I can't see. I have the 5th book in the Venom series, which is my MF hockey romance series, which actually is about a women's hockey team, professional hockey team, if anybody's so inclined. That comes out then. And then on the 12th of December, this co-authorly book with somebody, I don't know, because I can't see my notes. But it's called Deep Edge.
The 1st of December?
That's what I said.
I thought you said the 12th. It must be your funny accent. It's your funny accent. That's what it is.
Yep, that's what it is. Such a smart ass. Anyway, that's coming out on the 1st, and that's a hockey player and a figure skater who is very near and dear to our hearts.
Ooh.
That takes me through my year.
Cool.
And what about you, good sir?
I have on October 17th the first book in my young adult cyber thriller series. Kicks off. It's the Codename Winger series. Kicks off with Tracker Hacker on October 17th.
Ooh.
And that's a high school student who's a hockey player, computer genius, and also happens to be a covert agent.
Oh, I like that.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
So,
That
Needs to be made into a film.
Crazy. Is that on your young adult? Is that just because I work with sources of strength, so I'm a safe adult in my school? Is that an MM or just regular YA?
it is. For that one, I wanted the fact that the protagonist is gay to be like the least interesting thing about him. So he does have a boyfriend.
Okay.
So but it's not a romance. They're already established as the book opens. And I wanted to do something that was a little more action oriented and
Oh, I love action.
not just a love story, and and it's the first of I think 4 books that'll be out. So, and then at the top of next year, I've got The Hockey Player's Heart, which will be a Dream Spun Desire coming out that I actually co-wrote with my husband.
Oh,
Nice.
Fun.
And that's Not a for sure date yet, but it's either January or February for the Dream Spuns that'll be out. So,
how do you enjoy co-authoring with your husband? I mean, because I'm just having the most wonderful time of my life co-authoring with RJ, and I'm just wondering, like, but we're not married. I mean, if
I know, we're not thinking about.
So, like, is it challenging at times, or did you find it to be really easy?
I enjoyed creating with him, for sure, plotting it and laying it out. It was the first co-write for both of us, and so we found our way during it. And for him, it was the first time to write something that long form. And to get through the Dream Spinner edits, too. He'd never been through that process. He'd heard me talk about it before, but it was his first. And it's like, oh my God!
Look at all the red!
Look at all these marks.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
But it was nice, because, I mean, he's helped me with my stories for years. He's always been my beta, so he's always given good feedback. And so it was a nice evolution of what we were already doing to write it together.
I'm actually writing something with my daughter, and it's a romance set in the city that she lives in Cardiff, and it's a fascinating process to see a family member through a different set of eyes, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's
that's
very
what I was
enjoyable.
wondering, like, like if it's different than like writing, like co-authoring with another author, and then doing it with a family member, because there's so much with a family member that I thought probably it would be different.
I have as much fun with Bryony writing with her as I do writing with you. We're equally sarcastic and snarky and funny and loud, and so yeah. It's
And
no
I haven't
different,
done the co-write with anybody else, so I can't make the comparison.
Yeah.
So maybe someday I'll have another point of view as well if I co-write with somebody else. So what's the best way to keep up with everybody on social media? And for this one, we'll start with Vicky this time. Best way to keep up with everybody on social media.
Oh, I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Just look for VL Locey. You can find me. Where am I, RJ?
Everywhere.
Yeah,
too many places to count.
I am, and I'm everywhere. Just look for VL Locey. You'll find me.
If you type in the word Locey, Locey, you get you, because it's quite a unique surname that you've chosen there as your author name.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's
You're easy to find.
The married name came way before I chose the author name, so I'll have to thank my husband for having that name.
Yeah, you thank him.
Heather, what about you?
I am Heather Lire, Lire, everywhere. I'm even on Snapchat, but don't look me up on Snapchat because I may have Snapchat, but I do not know how to use Snapchat. I have it mainly so I can keep an eye on my kids. But I'm
RJ?
on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
And RJ.
Yeah, I'm everywhere as well. You just have to search for RJ Scott. You don't need the little points in between the R and the J, even though Goodreads demands that you do. I'm Twitter, Facebook mostly. Twitter I don't get sometimes, so I just tend to retweet people.
That's okay.
And that's about it. Yeah.
I can't.
And I have a
130
website.
characters. I'm too wordy, so I can't get my thoughts into 130 characters for Twitter. I think that's what the problem is.
I hear they're moving
Yeah.
to 240 soon, so that might
They
help
are,
with 280
yeah.
or something.
They're doubling it
Well,
up.
that would be good.
Yeah.
That would help.
All right.
But I also have a website. I don't know if anybody else has websites, but my
I have a
website is rjscott.co.uk, being that I'm in England, so it's .co.uk.
You are?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. It has been so much fun talking to all of you and telling everybody about the Changing on the Fly anthology. Thank you all for joining, and hopefully we get good sales and are able to send a lot of money over to the charity this year.
Thank you for having us, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.